A woman's looks does not matter. It is how much she is doing that matters.
Expectations lead to disappointment. Expectations lead to arguments in a lot of ways.
You should not expect somebody to act a certain way, and when they do or don't, you should have a backup plan for that.
As I'm trying to figure out what's happening, why 40% or 50% of black women over 40 are not married or have these in-depth relationships. Welcome to another episode of Why Love Waits, where we are in depth. We are going to the core of trying to understand relationships. And today, I'm excited about a special show today because I think we're going to talk and try to meet some of the challenges of expectations. Why we expect things and then the things we don't expect don't happen. When we think about anxiety, we think of anxiety, or I've written a book that's called Overthinking, and where we talk about concentrating on something that is probably not going to happen, or a thing that isn't that we don't believe is going to happen. And I think when we think about relationships, the height of anxiety happens when we have expectations and anticipation, where that is opposite of anxiety, where we believe because something's going to happen. Can anybody remember when they were, Christmas Eve and, thinking about Santa Claus coming and the anticipation of the presents that you're going to get and the energy that you have and the excitement that you have, or the first time that you're going to go to Disneyland, and you think about, oh man, I can't wait to get on the rides, or, for some of us, it's an amusement park like Magic Mountain, or, roller coasters or Great America. And the day before we have this anticipation, or when we're in school and we're thinking about, we're getting ready to graduate, or I can remember being most excited, like right before Christmas vacation, like that Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, when you're going to be on vacation for 2 weeks, or when summer vacation is going to start and you just can't wait to get out of school. And you have all this energy and excitement and these things that we believe are going to happen. And then that kind of moves the energy, and our energy is just positive energy, and we get excited. But then on the opposite end of it, we really start thinking about, okay, what if this is going to happen to me? And when we think about overthinking, we start thinking of all the wrong things that are going to happen. Our first relationship usually, or when we have those butterflies in our stomach, and we're asking, for me, asking the girl out to the prom, or on a date or something like that, the anticipation is great if she says yes. But the opposite is the anxiety that happens. What if she says no? What if I'm never going to get a girlfriend? What if nobody's ever going to like me? What if I'm ugly? What if, I go there and I say something wrong, and we build this thing up so big. Well, that carries on. That's just not something that happens when we're kids. We carry that on to our lives as adults. We carry that on to our lives of any relationship that we have. We even have talked on this show so far that, some folks go into their marriages with this anticipation, or this non-anticipation, or this anxiety that it's not going to work out. I'm going to do something wrong. When we become, parents, we think, I'm not going to, there's nobody who knows how to be a parent before they become a parent, because you've never been one. And we have all this, anxiety and stuff that puts in between us. And so today, I really, want to kind of talk about expectations and what are the things that we believe and we anticipate, and then it goes wrong. And then once it goes wrong and it wasn't the way it was the first time, or it wasn't the way the second time, it wasn't the way that Hollywood portrayed it, it wasn't the way that my mom and dad acted, it wasn't the way, and we started getting into arguments, we start getting into fights. What happens when that goes wrong one time, and then we try to enter into a new relationship, and we kind of take away some of those expectations? We start taking away what we think is going to happen. And then that keeps snowballing. And then now we have outside influences that start telling us that it's not going to work, or they start telling us this is the expectation that you're supposed to have. And if you don't have that expectation, then you're somehow you're less, or somehow, let's say it's one of the traditional is that the wife in a relationship should be the person who cooks. And so the guy's expectation is that I'm going to have somebody who's going to cook me, and I'm going to walk into the room, and I'm going to sit down, and I'm going to sit at the table, and then she's going to serve me my food every single day. Because that's how it was on Leave It to Beaver when I was growing up. And I was watching, and and so that's not what happened when I got married. And when I had my relationship, my wife, didn't want to cook every single day, and she surely wasn't going to serve me at the table every single day, as soon as I got home. But I wasn't like Ward Cleaver either. I wasn't jumping into coming home and putting my briefcase down and, at 5 o'clock in the afternoon and taking off my tie. And, and so it's way different than we expected it to be. And then now we move, like I said, you have outside influences where there's folks who are telling you how you should make it to be. And then we try to live up to some of those expectations. And I believe if we could figure out where that anticipation and those expectations were real, we could have some much more, I don't want to say fruitful, or much more advantageous, or much more meaningful relationships, that if maybe even if we figure out how to communicate our expectations. And I think that's another thing that we don't want to do. So I want to open it to the panel. I have Nathan Francis and Tanisha Harrison here, and Alicia Sweet and James Young on our panel today. And I just want to, maybe you guys we'll start with Nathan and kind of talk about what expectations you had when you finally became an adult that the relationship would be at. And we'll kind of go around the room and we'll talk about what our society says expectations should be. And then we'll just kind of play off of that. And so, Nathan, I'm going to let you start today. Give us those thoughts, those 3 or 4 or 5 expectations that, maybe they were reality and they happened, or maybe they didn't meet your expectations at all when you first got into your relationship.
Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the show. I'm glad to see everybody again. I didn't really have any expectations. I didn't really know what to expect. I was very cynical about relationships. The only expectation I had is that if something was happy and fun and good, and my first and a very significant relationship to me, that it will remain so. So when we started, when it started not feeling new and, giddy type of thing, and it was a wonderful relationship, I thought that meant the relationship was going to fail. So I guess my expectation was that we would be in that honeymoon phase forever. And I didn't even realize, nope, we're not going to be. And I really did some damage to that relationship because I started thinking, oh my God, even this relationship is going to tank. And it was one of my most satisfying relationships. So other than that, I kind of just as far as expectations, I was very well aware that I had to really talk to my partner to figure out who's going to do what, cooking, whatever, pay the bills. So I would usually talk with the person a lot about that up front, because really I dated women from so many different backgrounds that it was hard to really have a set expectation of what they would provide in the home, what they could provide, education level, all that sort of thing. So I was kind of all over the board.
Okay. So was it, I think, not an expectation for it to fail as you go into it? Sounds like that was part of it. Were there any cultural or gender biases that you had about who should do what, or did you went in there with a blank slate and you guys just kind of divvied up, this is all the things that need to be done, and then this is who's responsible? Or were there some things that you believed in that would be, that's like for what she should be doing, or this is what I should be doing, or I should be the protector or something like that?
I thought things should be 50-50. I was big into using that word that I just used, partner, and, we're going to be a team and all that. And I think that's a great thing. But what I defaulted to, at least in my marriage, I've only been married once, was I paid for everything. And I was much more happy for my wife to be at home, and I paid for everything. I did have hopes that she would, cook dinner, as you had mentioned, and would kind of be ready, like when I came home from flight school. That didn't happen. So fortunately, my mom had prepared me because she made me do laundry and cook and all kinds of stuff growing up, and I wanted to be a chef. So I kind of just overpowered my wife in that area. But I guess what I'm going is that I felt like I was being pushed down this avenue of modern partnership and jointness and everything. But my default, Nathan Francis, everything usually fell to, I'm going to pay for everything. I'm the man. I'm the protector. And that's just how I roll, if that makes sense.
Cool. Thank you for that. I have a couple things, rewrap questions, but I'd love for Tanisha to go ahead and tell us what you thought, and then we'll come back to some of the I think those are great.
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here amongst you all. Something that I learned, I had a lot of expectations when I was much younger. And these expectations weren't necessarily mine. It was through the lens of other individuals, the way I was raised, what I saw, what I didn't see. And so I had all these expectations when I got married, not knowing what I didn't know. But that led to disappointment. And so I stopped having expectations because I expect my husband to do this, but I didn't have a conversation with him. He didn't agree to that. And so it's not fair to have an expectations, which is why I let go. I have agreements. It's far better because then that person has said, yes, I am agreeing with you. I am in this with you to do this thing. The other part that I figured out, as this was after divorce, was just checking in to see what that individual likes to do. Like, I don't want anyone to do anything for me that they do not want to do, that does not bring them joy in some type of way. We can all be stretched and pulled outside of our comfort zone, but to have someone, to have this expectation of you are supposed to provide, you are supposed to do this without having the conversation. If I don't like to cook and my husband expects me to cook, but we never had that conversation, it's going to be a recipe for disaster. There was no communication. But if he comes in and says, I love to cook, what do you like to do? Well, you know what? I love being in the garden. I love doing this. I love my love language is this. Then we have the ability to create agreements amongst each other. So then we're both showing up as the better version of ourselves in this marriage, or improving upon, versus me expecting or him expecting me to do A, B, and C. It's always going to be disappointment because we're human and we fail. And it's somehow in relationships, we often put people up on this pedestal and then they fall short. And now we're focused on everything that they did wrong, all the expectations, things, and it just doesn't work out. So I'd rather have agreements, have the conversation of figuring out what that individual likes, what they love, and then creating our own, what works for us in our relationship, creating that, defining it for us, because it's not about society. It's not about the conditions and the beliefs of everyone else. It's what works for our home, what works for us, and then together how we grow and move it forward.
Thank you. I like that a lot. I'll have a couple questions for you here in a moment. But James, would love to hear what your thoughts are on expectations and how it used to be and how it ended up.
Okay, so the military taught me a term that I'm sure people have heard before: expectation management, right? So you might hope for the best, but be prepared for the worst, right? I've been married a few times, right? And I'm gonna put this on my first wife because I don't want the second wife to be mad at me. She's outside the door ear hustling. So I'm just gonna say that when I first got married, I thought that my wife was gonna go to bed every night in lingerie, smelling good. She'd be floating around the house, kiss me when I came home, tell me how beautiful I was, shave me, all that kind of stuff. That was a rude awakening. Probably that happened maybe for the first couple of months. Then that fell off. She started going to bed looking like a construction worker, right? And most of I like to cook. I am a chef, actually. I went to school. So prior to me going to school, at this marriage, I let my wives do all the cooking and everything. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, right? but I had to come to the realization, and my mother taught me, just like Nathan's mother, that I had to cook and clean and do all the things that I thought was a gender role, because you can't always rely on a woman to take care of you, right? And I didn't know if I was ever going to get married, right? Because what you see is what you get. I'm a pretty straightforward guy, right? And the army, I think, made that worse, right? Because I tell you exactly, I expected. Well, my current wife, she said that I still act like I'm in the army, and she's one of my soldiers, right? Because I ask her to do things, and maybe I need to change the way. I mean, need to be like Tanisha, talk things out and come to consensus and hold each other's hands and look each other in the eye, and, talk about what we like and how we feel. But I'm not really touchy feely like that. And in my old age, right, I'm aging gracefully, and I do now have those conversations. So, Dr. B, thank you for allowing me to be in this venue where I've learned a lot from. I don't know what happened to Tia, Tanisha, and the rest of y'all about talking about feelings and all that stuff. I think sometimes that I can be overbearing, and I realize that, and I'm sure my wife will tell you all kind of stuff about expectation management, right? Because I let her fend for herself in a few ways, and I do it in my ways. But my mother, she kind of ruined it for any woman that I'd married, because she was probably the hardest working woman that I've ever seen. We always joked, when my mother worked like 3 jobs. So when my brother was born, she cleaned up the afterbirth and went back to work, right? So I kind of expected, every woman that I got with to be hardworking, clean everything. She had OCD, she cleaned everything, bleach and all that kind of stuff. So I expected that, but modern day women don't really fall into that category. So my expectations kind of fell through there. But I'm married now. I love it. I love you, honey. And I don't expect anybody to do too much for me. So I'm pretty self-reliant.
Well, and thank you for that. But one of the things I heard in there is you said she looked like a construction worker. So was one of the expectations that she kept up a outside appearance all the time? Was that kind of the expectation that you had, and then there wasn't a time to look her natural self, or worse than her natural self, I guess?
So thank you for allowing me to expand on that. So the head wraps, because when we first got married, the hair's done, lingerie, you smell good, right? I was like, let me take you to Victoria's Secret. Let's pick out something together, right? The honeymoon phase, right? As soon as that ended, all that ended, right? So you wore the head wraps, you had stuff on your face, you go to bed with all this pajamas on and all that. So that lingerie stuff kind of went out the window, right? And the things you did when you first got married, I don't know what the rating of the show is, right? They don't continue past maybe the first or second year. But love is about, marriage is more than that. It's more than you looking good for me all the time, because I got to see you at your best and your worst. So that falls into expectation management.
Thank you. I like that. Alicia, I would love to hear your initial thoughts on expectations.
So my initial thoughts and expectations on marriage were very minimal, actually. I didn't really communicate that well, but I expected to be treated and to be considered as I treated and considered my spouse at the time. Now at 38, very different expectations. I'm actually like the same person, but I wouldn't expect anything from somebody that I do not do or that I cannot do. So with my partner now, we've been dating 4 years. I expect us to always be friends, and I expect him to be able to come and talk to me about anything. And that has been true since before we were dating, we were friends. We're still friends. A lot of the things that we did in the honeymoon phase, we still do. I expect consideration in the regard to, if he sees like I had a hard day and I'm struggling and I'm busy, that he orders pizza or he takes up dinner, right? I enjoy cooking. I love cooking. So I think we're equal in cooking though, because he's from the South as well. So he really likes cooking, and we like catering to each other. So it's not a problem, but we consider each other's day and like what's going on to who's going to do. It's no gender roles in the house, which I really appreciate. But the expectation, I guess, coming in, and I'm still like very headstrong on this. Like, we have 3 daughters. So coming up, I would bathe the daughters, right? And until they were able to bathe themselves, right? And if we had a son, then he would be the one with the son. So we're really funny about stuff like that. But that's like small. That's with the kids. But in a relationship, it's no necessarily gender roles. I want the same appreciation and consideration and communication throughout the relationship, because we're best friends. So you shouldn't lay down with me every night and can't talk to me about something that's on your spirit. That means you're not for me. But he's my person, so we talk about a lot of things, and he's very in tune with me. And likewise, but like if I notice he's like working very long and he's doing this, I know he has to take his medicine, and I know he didn't have time to eat, and I'm texting him like, how's your day? He's like, I'm in meetings, I'm doing this. I'll stop and make sure I get him a very nice meal, or I'll bring him something up to his job so he can eat, so he can take his medicine. Or if he's not here when we eat dinner because he's still working, he'll have a plate in the microwave. And I know that if it was me, he does the same thing. So consideration and appreciation and communication, I think, are like, they are enduring in a relationship, and they allow the relationship to carry forward through those tough times. Because it could be sometimes where I'll be like he's really, we're both getting our PhDs. So it's hard because I'm in class and he's online, right? So he'll be like, I got assignment due. And I'm thinking like, I got assignments due too, right? But I'll look and see what he's doing. And I'm like, okay, Lisa, like I do have a little flex where I can do this, that. And I have my own office at LSU where I can work, when I'm not. And he actually works and goes to school. So I give a little slack in my expectations, where before I would just have this internal narrative in my head and I wouldn't voice it. And in turn, that would make me, resent him for something that I never communicated to him. Like what Tanisha was saying, like you can't resent somebody for something that you never communicated with up front. So now, because he is my friend, I can say we don't argue and we don't yell at each other because he's my friend, right? So I'll wait till we're like laying down and we're like watching TV, and I'm like, hey babe, today this kind of bothered me. And he's like, oh wow, I didn't know that, but thank you for telling me, and I'll fix it next time. So it's never like, why didn't you, you know what I mean? Because that's my friend. So at 38, different from 18, I guess, why would you want to talk to your friend like that? Why would you want to treat your friend like that? So if that's the person that's the most important person in your life, you should always handle them with love and care, like you would, necessarily glass, right? Because they're fragile. So, and I would want him to handle my feelings like that.
You could do something for me that I think would be very helpful, not only to myself, but to the audience that we have, is the definition of friend. Because when I think of friend, I probably think of something different than you think, especially when I think of friends that are opposite sex, right? When I think of like the best friend to a woman, that when I see is like some gay man and that would love to just learn all about.
I have those that likes to go shopping. He want to go to Lush.
There you go. So
he there for it all. Like, but we going in. I'm gonna help you watch this. Yeah.
Okay. She's moving.
No, I'm sorry. My oven is going off, and if I don't get up, it's gonna keep going off. But I'm here. But so to define friends, so I would say Rico is my best friend, right? Like I have colleagues that I work with. I have friends people that I have grown with in the military over the years that I consider like battle buddies. But when I say friends, like childhood friends that I've grown up with, and then I have Rico, who's like my best friend, who's like I can be naked with emotionally, physically, and spiritually. That's my best friend and my mate. Like, so that's my person, so to speak. So he's all of that in one. My hubby, lover, friend. So nobody else gets that type of transparency and affection but him. But friend is, so I don't have, when you say friends of the opposite sex, I don't have any friends that are not his friend. That's weird. You shouldn't have friends that are of the opposite sex that your spouse can't meet. Because that now that they're his friend, you know what I mean? So if you just trying to be my friend and you know I'm in this relationship and you don't want to meet the person that I'm with, then are you really my friend? And that's vice versa. So, and I know you've been married a while, Dr. B, but like I know your wife wouldn't appreciate you having a friend that just you have, you know what I mean? So if she's really your friend, guess what? That's y'all friend. And she come over to the barbecues and the birthdays, and that's y'all friend. But there is no just me having friends that he doesn't know about.
Gotcha.
I see James can't wait to say something.
All right, yeah, bro. Hey, Rico, I think I saw, he's in there, right? He's in the kitchen with you?
He's in the kitchen, but I have on my AirPods.
So, okay, so we can hear you. Okay.
But he can hear you. Hold on.
Hey, Rico.
Babe, they want to ask you a question.
No. Alicia.
Yes, come on.
Alicia says that.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you fine, yeah.
But I can't hear y'all. Let me disconnect my headphones.
You got one of them on. Can you hear me right now, Rico? Yeah, you can hear me, no?
1 second, and I just need to disconnect.
Okay.
Okay, disconnect. Okay, Dr. B.
All right, gotcha. Can you hear me?
Okay, we got you. Come here, babe.
Right. Just a quick question. Alicia says that you are her best friend and she's your best friend. And you
no.
Friends. You can't hear you? Oh no. Okay. Well, we'll come back to him later.
It connected right back up. I can't hear.
So
disconnect.
So I think that while she's doing that, I think that, and I always say this to everybody: to be married, you have to be three things: friends, lovers, and business partners. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't allow my wife to have friends, male friends, because I think it causes a problem. Because most male friends, right? They can't wait till the guy messes up and they swoop in, usually, right? Except when they get to a certain age. I'm at the age now, I have a lot of female friends. Some my wife knows and some she doesn't. I have no problem with her meeting my friends, but it's just either an inopportune time or they live in another state, because I have a lot of female friends I grew up with in New York that she has not met. But I just think, well, kind of like Alicia said, we should both know them, but there's a limit. You're not going out with your friend, male friend, by yourself to the movies or anything like that.
Right, that's crazy.
Unsupervised. That's not cool. I have a friend of mine, and he lets his wife go out with her best friend, away for weekends and all that. A man? Absolutely not. Right? I don't know. I think my wife has enough common sense that she's not gonna come to me. Oh, this is my friend Jay. We're gonna go away for the weekend. Okay, well, your stuff will be packed when you come back. The doors are locked, will be changed, and all your credit cards will be canceled. Absolutely not. So we could be friends because we have company all the time, right? But as long as we supervise, no problem. But I think for myself, my relationship is more important than any kind of fling or anything I can get into. But you have to, those three things, friends, lovers, and business partners, require practice, and you should try to be the best at all three of those things so you have a successful relationship. Tanisha, is that how you feel?
Of course you would call me, James.
Let me ask Rico a question, and we'll come right back to you, Tanisha. I'll give you a chance to think of the answer. So Rico, you can hear me now, right?
Yes.
So Alicia said that you guys were friends and friends before, and that's probably why your relationship works so well. Have you felt that there's been any sacrifice in when we think of like male-female relationships and what it means to be a friend and what women expect to have as a friend, and then what men expect to have as a friend sometimes don't come together? Are you like the guy, I want to go shopping, I want to do all the things that she loves to do because I'm her friend? What does that mean? Because I'm trying to define, I guess, what does it mean to be a friend in a male-female relationship?
Wow. What it means to me, we talking about in our relationship, or we just talking about
yours? Because yours is the one that or maybe you can add what it was like before, and now it's different now. So maybe just what friends mean.
So I understand. What it means to me is that you're able to share everything. When I say everything, uh, everything. I mean, why not? Uh, I have friends, for example, that I grew up with that Lisa has met. Then I have friends that I've cut off because they try to be just my friend, which is weird. Like she said. So, and we are in agreement that if I have a friend or she have a friend that she can't meet or I can't meet, then obviously they don't belong in the circle because I've met people that just for some apparent reason just want to be uh, your friend in general. And I'm in agreement with Jay that when it comes down to friendship and male friend and female friend and going on road trips and stuff, it's kind of like, so where we going type of deal. So we all are going to said location. And it, to me, it's a red flag when you just want to go with just you. Now, however, on the flip side of that, in our relationship, Lisa has friends that she's known for years, for decades. And to me, those friendships are meant worth maintaining. And I assist in maintaining those friendships because, like I told her before, they knew things about you that I just don't know. And what I mean about that, there are funny times that Jay knows about Lisa that I don't know in order to maintain their friendship. And they're just, and it's not even a secret. It's just there's just times and situations that only a close friend, proud of me, would know. So I expect and I push that. But in them same situations, however, most of those friends are married. Therefore, excuse me, she got down on her knees. Hold on.
Oh my goodness! To get a pot top.
To get a pot top. To get a pot top. To get a top. But so what happened? So, but what I'm saying is that, and that's how you joke with your friend. So what I'm saying is that, and most of those friends are married. Therefore, if she were going on a road trip with those particular friends, it is what it is. But
do we do a lot of stuff together? He's asking, what does it mean in our
relationship? So to circle back to what you were saying at the very beginning, I was just trying to give you some type of context. Yeah. Therefore, within this relationship, within our relationship, in order to maintain friendship, I make those compromises. For example, I don't like them massages at all. However, that is her thing. Therefore, to support our friendship, our love, I make that compromise.
He doesn't like it, but he needs it because he's super tight. And who's not doing it all the time because I'm tight as well is me. So he goes because he also needs it, but he doesn't like it.
Exactly. And for example, I like dancing salsa, merengue, bachata. I like dancing. However, she can't dance. So she let me teach her because that's something I like doing. So it's a give and pull in order to maintain our friendship and our love to me. And that's what it's all about because real friends understand when you're tired. Real friends understand when you just don't feel like talking. Real friends understand that sometimes even you don't have to talk to them every day. Not saying we don't talk, but you don't have to talk in order to maintain a relationship. Real friends understand that a room can be quiet, but yet it's loud, and you don't have to fill it with no information because they're there. They understand. They meet you there. And to me, any friend that you have that must always fill that space, at least in a relationship, that means that that partner is not doing their part to make them feel confident. They're not doing their part to make them feel appreciated. All those words that usually women point out, but also from a male perspective, you have to always point out that, hey, we have feelings also. And she took the opportunity, like she said, to nurture a friendship, to point those things out in order to keep us on the same playing field. Now, I would tell you, in order to get to this point, to understand this type of relationship that we have, it took years of mistakes. And hindsight is 20/20. And I will say that she's getting all of the best of me. And I can also agree that she's also improving me in many ways, which in turn, just like any friendship, if you have a friend, you can identify how successful you are by your closest 5 friends, exactly where you may go in life, may or may not. And with her being so close and being so successful, some of the things that she do push off on me, and hopefully she's getting the same push back and forth now to make her better. So hopefully, doctor, that answered your question.
That did. Thank you very much. I appreciate your sacrifice. Getting a massage, even though you don't like getting a massage, is all right.
I love it.
However, and you know, like a good manicure pedicure. I got to
right.
I do it all.
Hey, just let you know. Hey,
No.
and you know, like
I tried to get a Brazilian.
I know fingernail polish, but what I will tell you though,
Yes,
I appreciate it.
I hear you. All right, Tanisha. So James talked about. Thank you very much, Rico. James talked about business partner, lover, and friend. And wanted your thoughts on that. What are you thinking in those three realms of expectations? I guess
I think that those are key. Business partner, to be able to have the conversation on how you're going to grow the relationship. In some ways, it can be looked at as a business, but just going into business, doing anything, and being able to share a business mindset, it tells you a lot about someone. Or if business wasn't something that they were thinking that they could do, it changes the mindset of someone, like of the other individual, to help teach them. If they're willing, they're like, hey, I never thought about this, but I'm open to learning. I think that business relationship will be even stronger. You'll recognize, like, hey, you're gifted and strong in this space and place. What do you think about doing this in order to continue this business that we are growing? And then friends is very important. My person, my love, we had this spot that we would always go to eat. And the feedback from one of the workers there was, I love watching you all come in because you can tell you're friends. You can tell that you love to talk to each other. You can tell that you love each other and that you like each other genuinely because of the conversation, because of the way that you look at each other, because of how intentional you are to hear one another, even over breaking bread. I look at couples who come into this space and place, and I can immediately tell that they don't like each other, and they're just just going through the motions just to say that they did, or they're just so used to it, but there's no conversation. And so friendship is very important. He is my friend. I can talk to him about anything, in everything. But it had to grow into that because I had some hangups. I had to unpack old ways of thinking and being. I had to let go of things that were holding me back. It had nothing to do with him. I was a common denominator in everything that happens in my life, good, bad, or indifferent. So I had to start taking accountability and ownership so that I could be, for one, a better friend to myself. This is why I don't have expectations, because I could expect him to be a friend to me and all those qualities. But if I am not being a friend to myself, it doesn't matter what he does. There's always going to be a problem. I'm the common denominator. And then on the more intimacy and sex are two different things. And so being able to be intimate and vulnerable, have these conversations is going to carry you to the next level. Because sometimes people are holding back. Intimacy is not there because the space is not safe. Or there's not a conversation about it at all. And so this idea of what a relationship is, and thinking intimacy is sex, when intimacy is something much deeper. You are learning your soul and you are learning theirs, but ultimately you're learning about yourself and how to show up for yourself. So all these attributes, all these things that you want from this partner, you're already doing. So it's mirror. You want to have a good friend in your relationship all around holistically with your community, your tribe, your lover. You got to know how to do that for yourself. So then you can have that conversation effective communication with them to tell them the things that you like and that you don't like, where you want to grow and where you don't, or just saying, I don't know, but I know I want better than this. So that's the beginning of being that friend to yourself, being intimate with yourself. All of these practices, in order to have it on the other side, you got to start with you. You got to start within. So then it shows without.
Thank you for sharing it. That's really, when I think about, and maybe push back just a little bit on there being no expectations, but I think not having expectation is an expectation in itself. And what I see though, and I love what James is saying, because I think what the piece that the business model relationships, and it's not talked about till it's too late, because every relationship has in different aspects, there's a leader, there's a follower, there's an initiator, there's a responder, because we can't all exactly be equal in every situation. And so I think we kind of choose those. Sometimes it happens organically, sometimes it happens because we talk about it. But when we think about, the business partner aspect of it, like money is something that interacts in every single one of our lives all day long, every day. There's not a day that we're not spending money. There's not a day that we're not interacting with this thing called money, because it's the way that we transact any types of transaction in our society. Because we're not growing our own food. I'm not going out and having my own chickens and eating those chickens and having to make eggs and all the things that go along with it. I'm not going to do that, not today. Maybe in Baton Rouge, it can happen that way, but not in Denver, Colorado. I'm not growing no chickens there. But on the same side of it, I have electric bill, right? And so, but as long as my electricity is on, I'm spending money. But in relationships, we have an expectation that, especially the older we get, because I have my money, she has her money, or I have my checking account, she has her checking account, all which are fine if that's how we're going to do it, and then maybe we bring some together. But if we don't have that conversation first, if we're not, and I'm a spendthrift and I go spend money on everything I want when I want, and she's a saver and she's decided that I want to save every penny. I mean, I think the biggest cause of divorce is money. And so what do you guys think about, I mean, James, you hit it where we're going into a partnership. Somebody's probably the CEO, somebody might be the financial, the CFO, somebody might be the, whatever that C-suite is that we figured out. How do we have those conversations first that deal with money? And then how do we interact as we move forward that finds our own dreams and goals that we might want in the future? Because if we're thinking about anxiety again, right, where that anxiety is a undesired outcome, thinking about it, worrying about it, putting energy into an undesired outcome. How do we do that? What are you guys' thoughts on money and business partner? And
I think you should have a conversation of like, what is their relationship with money? How do they feel about money? How were they raised with like the education? Like, what is their literacy when it comes to money? Because a lot of us have unhealthy relationships with money. And so you're looking to have go into business in whatever form. If they have a terrible relationship with money, it's not going to go anywhere until they shift their mindset. Money works, but how it works for you depends on you. So if you have been taught not to talk about money, it was all, behind closed doors for mom and dad or for grandma and papa, and we just didn't talk about finances and we figured it out. Now, my relationship with money is probably going to be similar unless I've done some personal development, unless I've done some professional development, unless I'm surrounded around other individuals that can help mentor or provide the information, the wisdom with it. Until I start to change and personally develop and my understanding and relationship with money, it can be all bad. So I would start there with the conversation of what does money mean to you? What is your relationship? What are your ideas? What are your thoughts on it? And then you can expand upon the business piece.
But what if they aren't the same, but I love you?
What's love got to do with it? What's love? What's love?
Love doesn't pay bills. So I think we're misconstruing what I said. When I said business partners, I mean your marriage itself is a business. You have accounts payable, accounts receivable, or you will fail as a couple, right? When I was single and I was buying property and everything, I didn't have to have anybody else co-sign for me or sign next to me, right? Dr. B will tell you I just refinanced my house, everything. She had to sign the paperwork too. So you are a business. How do you have those conversations? I usually have them at dinner, or we put the bills. I said, "Baby, how about this and that?" Blah blah blah. But soon as we put on the business cap, we take the lover and friendship hat off, right? Because there might be some hard truths. You're spending too much money on this, right? When my wife gets up in the morning, she turns every light in the house on. You probably see my house from space, right? So I have to say, listen, we need to cut down on having these lights on all the time, right? We need to do best practices, right? We were living in Okinawa, our electric bill just for two of us, and we weren't home all the time, was anywhere from $500 to $700 because they import their electricity in. So I set up certain days where we wash clothes, we set the water on certain temperatures, so on and so forth. So when you communicate, where we're lacking, and basically I have AARs every month when the bills come in. Hey, this is what we did right. This is a sustain. This is what we did wrong. We got to change that, right? For you people in the military, you understand what I'm talking about. AAR, after action review, right? So I do kind of run my house like a business and the military, right? And I like to think of myself as the General Grand Poobah, right? But she's standing right next to me, and we work things out because of the love we have and the friendship. We can talk about business, and we can move those hats around.
I think that's amazing. That's important, but I don't know how many relationships that have ARSs at the end of every single month. Alicia, do you guys have ARS and you sit down and go over all the finances and after action review of everything you spent, everything you did?
No, we don't. But I had a question for James.
Okay.
I was going to ask you, what did that preliminary, like leading up to, this is where you are now, but when you started pursuing her, what was that initial conversation like about finances, like with your wife now?
So the whole tenure of the relationship changed, right? Alicia's known me for a while. I advised her on some things with money, whatever. We used to talk about money when she was a little thing, right? But when I first meet you, or we start dating, my money's not your business, right? I'll take you out. I'm going to pay for it, do whatever. But the worst thing you can do when you first meet somebody is talk about money, right? Because it sets unrealistic expectations. Remember, expectation management. So when you start telling people, well, I got this, I got that, they expect you to pay for everything. And I don't mind paying for meals and everything, but I'm not paying your bills, I'm not paying your rent, none of that kind of stuff. So my wife was unique. She had a great sense of humor. To be with me, you have to grab a great sense of humor. I think a lot of adults, especially when they get married, forget how to play, forget how to laugh and have fun and everything. I think that adds some texture and tenure to your relationship. Because if you don't have fun with each other, if you just look at each other, that's not going to be cool. And like Tanisha said, with me and my wife, we have date nights on Friday and Saturday. People say the same thing, man, y'all act like little kids. And that is how we keep our relationship strong, right? Because we might not always be able to have the great sex that we're having now and, long conversations when we get old and ugly, right? And we changing each other's pampers. There has to be more to the relationship than, we call that, what do you call that? The preliminary things, the things on the surface, right? So you have to establish that relationship and have that relationship there. But to answer your question, Alicia, totally different. And when I say AAR, I don't sit down and call a room to attention and draw things on the board, right?
Yeah.
I'm using that term loosely to say, hey, baby, we got this bill, we got to pay it. Boom. So we open a business, right? I pay some and she pays some, right? And I say, hey, you got your money? I'm running to the bank. I'm gonna go put it in because I pay my bills before I eat, right? So I had to teach her my way of paying bills and my way of doing things, right?
And did she have some that were herself, or are you the money guy that? And to go back to Alicia's question, so when do you have the money conversation? Because I think it's too late after you get married.
Oh, so
not what you have. They don't need what you have is one thing, but how you interact with money is super important.
So here's the thing. It's 3 phases, right? 3 phases of this operation, right? The first one, we meet, we date, right? The second phase, we're engaged. The last phase, we're married. During that engagement phase, that's when we talk about expectations. I have you sign your counseling form, what I will accept, what I won't accept.
Oh my goodness.
This is how the money goes, right? I'm just telling you, I'll be honest with you. I'm breaking it down, right? So when I sat down and talked to my wife, I think we were out somewhere, and I said, listen, you know, if we're going to be married, I've been married before, and I think I failed in that because now I have an account, she has an account, and we have a joint account where all the twains meet. We pay our bills out of that, everything else, right? Even our business stuff, right? I have my own business before I met her. We opened some business together. She has her own notary, signing business, everything. So I help her with all of that, and we've developed each other, right? I know more about business. She actually knows more about sports than me. She could tell you what the runs batted in 1920, right, for the Dodgers or whatever. You know, I don't care about all that stuff. I watch it. Okay, great, go team. But we're totally different people, or we come together and we have a symbiotic relationship. But with money, I don't compromise with money. I don't pay no bills late. Like I said, before we go to grocery store, I'm paying my bills, right? So we definitely have to have those conversations. If the money is going to slack off or it's going to affect my credit or whatever, or your credit, we need to have those conversations.
Yeah, well, and I can see where your expectation in any relationship when you were going into it, obviously that's not happening anymore because you have your wife, but I'm the guy, I know money, I'm the guy who's going to run the money, and if you're willing to come into my system, then you're somebody that I can work with. And I don't think there's an issue with that. It's just knowing that your expectation is not only your expectation, it is your non-negotiable that comes into a relationship. And I think that's important that we talk about some of those because it is important. But
can I tell you a true story about that?
Absolutely.
True story about that. And those of you that are in the Army probably know what I'm talking about. So in Korea, I was stationed in Korea, and we had a curfew. You couldn't go out after, was it 12 o'clock or whatever it is? I don't know if you guys ever been to Korea. But anyway, so a friend of mine, right, an African guy, right, and I'm going to do his an impression of his accent here in a minute. But anyway, so he would always get in trouble for breaking curfew, right? And I was at the CQ desk, the guard on duty, you know, sits at the door, right? And he'd always run out, don't tell on me, please, don't tell on me. I said, oh, okay, well, let me know what's going on when you come back, right? So he came back and told me the story, right? So his wife, he got married before he deployed, right? So he was always suspicious of her because on payday, by the time he got up, all his money was gone. And he'd always have to borrow money. So he said he called home one time and he was talking to his wife, and she was like, I don't even want to talk to you right now. He had talked to your son. And so the son says, who is that? Before he got the phone, who is that? Is that my other daddy? Now, yeah, we had to restrain that guy. So because he made the mistake of putting his money into one pot, she was robbing him. She cheated on him. And this happens a lot in the military, especially when you're deployed for a while, right? So I'm just going to say that would you like to join the conversation? Cool. And sorry. But anyway, it's very important that you separate your finances, and you absolutely have to trust the person that you're married to. One of the most vital decisions that you ever make in your life is who you're going to marry. You can date whoever you want to, whatever, but marriage is serious.
Absolutely. Kind of moving forward, even with our conversation on money, because I think, you know, what we do with money is super important. But it's also what our future earning potential or our future goals, as far as when we get married, what we believe we're going to aspire to. And so, you know, one of the things that we read that you know, these values, It says that Black women sometimes cite financial instability, or lack of ambition in some Black men as a challenge or pursuing long-term relationships. And so, what is the earning potential or the education or the personal development process in the relationship? Is that an expectation that I expect you to always grow? I expect you to move up the ladder, or is it you're okay being where you're at and we'll just stay here and we're good to go? If those aren't in congruency with each other, how do we have that conversation when we're setting up our expectations? Because I think that is a big expectation. He's going to take care of me, and we're gonna go from the tiny house to the big house someday. And if that's not happening fast enough, I'll let anybody jump in on that one.
Just having a conversation with them, asking them who they are, who they want to be, where do they see themselves, like what are their aspirations and dreams. Again, the fairy tale is not ever having a conversation, not talking to someone and having this whole idea in your head and living in that space, and then never having a conversation with your spouse, with your, and not even realizing like they do have ambition. Maybe they just need some information to guide them, but we don't have conversations to ask them, who are you? Who do you want to be?
Yeah. Well, but it's one thing to have the conversation, and it's one thing, success leaves clues. Did you have a paper route when you were 16 and then jumped up to the restaurant when you were 18 and then jumped up to something when you were 20? Or you've been waiting for somebody to take care of you your whole, if you're watching and seeing, is that part of it? Because that somebody can tell you. I know a whole lot of dreamers, is what I guess I'm saying, that will tell me they're gonna have the world, they're gonna do everything. We see movies about it, but then you look at their discipline and you look at the things they're actually doing, and those two things don't go together. So how do you believe
Well,
when you have
I would say that the difference between dreams and fantasies are action, right? And
Work
a lot of
ethic,
people
absolutely.
I'm telling you, a lot of people, I'm gonna do this. Okay. So when are you gonna do it? Right? You suffer from analysis paralysis. Make it happen. Sometimes making the wrong decision is still a good decision because you learn from your mistakes, right? At least you got to handle. Well, go ahead, Elisa.
Yes. So I was just gonna say, just chime in on what you said, and then I have like a small story. But the discipline between like dreaming and actually that dream coming to fruition is absolutely work ethic and discipline. And a lot of times when some of my soldiers would be like, "Oh, I want to do this, I want to do that," and I'm like, "Okay, so what's the prerequisites? What's the roadmap to get from here to there?" And when they can't tell me, I'm like, come back to me when you're serious. Because when you're serious about it, you've done your research, you've gotten letters of recommendation, you know exactly where you need to get from here to there. If you haven't even put the address in your GPS, you can't tell me that's where you're going. Okay. So that's step one. Step two, that is a deal breaker for me if you don't have your own aspirations, goals, motivation. I can't be your everything, right? And I've had that happen to me. Short story. When I was younger, it was a guy who just couldn't. And you met this guy, James. He came up to the office one day and he was like all about me, right? And he was like, "Hey, have you seen Specialist such and such?" And he was like, "She's working," But he kept trying to pursue me. And to this day, this guy would like try to reach out to me. I had to block him. And he was like, I just want to know why you never gave me a chance. And I was like, honestly, do you? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, because you didn't have your own dreams. I said, you like me so much that I was your everything, that you didn't even have anything else that you wanted to do but be with me. And that was a turnoff. I'm busy being great. I don't need somebody that's distracting me from that. I need you to want to be great too. And then we can come together as we're climbing this mountain. But you only wanted to date me. That was your whole aspiration. That was crazy to me. And when I told him that, I said, you didn't dream enough. You weren't aspirational enough. You didn't have enough discipline to want anything else but a woman. And that's a turnoff. And he was like, well, damn. And I was like, and he only made it to Sun First Class. And I made Sun First Class in 7 years. So I was just kind of like, it's a no for me. So you absolutely have to have your own dreams and aspirations. And I love that. Like, like me and Rico both in IT, but he's in like cybersecurity and my passion is like digital forensics. So it's like two different things, but we can still have a like really good conversation about things. But he's over there being great and I'm over here being great, and it's great. You know what I mean? But when you start to like latch on to me and it's like, you're my everything, like that's crazy to me. And that's a deal breaker. I need to know that you are motivated beyond just wanting me on your arm, because I'm nobody's eye candy.
That's fair. And I still think that that's that question of who are you? Because if you start, because people, just like this guy, he was attached to you, but he didn't know who he was. So like though that question never got posed, so you can think a little bit deeper. And who do you want to become? Like that was the pumpkin thing. You who do you want to become? Like what is it that you want? You start somewhere small so they can have the conversation, because you're able to tell from there. If you say, who are you? And they give you just the basic characteristics that they've heard, you already know. Like there's something lacking there. Someone can tell you, because you're more than your name. I didn't ask you your name. When I say, who are you? And you tell me your name, you're missing it, because your name was something that was given to you. But who are you? Which means, like, what are your dreams and aspirations? Who do you want to become? And how do we get there? So the next thing is steps. What are those steps? Like you said, if you haven't done the research, right there, how invested are you in self? But the conversation has to start, because maybe no one's ever posed that question to them. Maybe they did not grow up in a space or a place where that was the conversation. So getting to that piece, you get to unpack that person. Well, they get to unpack themselves. But that's where
here's my thing, right? And I tell a lot of people this. Okay, a lot of people like, oh, Young, what are you doing now? Man, you all over the place. Alicia will tell you, I sold hair weave. I was trying to sell hair weave, real estate, trucking business. If the thought crossed my mind, I go research it, AI, figure it out, right? But 5 things, the acronym SMART, I never forget when I'm doing it. Specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and timely. Everything got a time on it. How much research are you going to do? I know people, I got a friend, he's been researching buying a house now for 40 years? And you're not doing it? When are you going to do it? You got to figure out, just jump in the water sometime and swim your way out. No, don't put your toe in the water. Oh, it's cold and I get in. Jump in all the way and figure it out, right? When the mother of my child, Tanisha, you like that? I said that? I didn't say baby.
Yes. You did good.
Did he freeze on us?
Now you froze on us.
Oh,
Doing the right thing. He froze up.
Give him another second, and then we'll pop back on.
Lost you for a minute.
There you are. You're back.
But you heard what I said, though. You
just said that you didn't say my baby mama. That's what we okay.
So what I was saying was that when she told me she was pregnant, I had to figure it out. I couldn't unpregnate her. I had to figure out how I was going to take care of a child, what I was going to tell my chain of command, was I going to marry her or not? All these questions, hit me right away, right? My gut reaction was saying, how did that happen, right? We know how it happened, but I didn't think I was ready to be a father, right? I don't think any man, it's a transition for any man to do. But again, having a child, you have to have that goal. He's going to be here 9 months. That's the timely part, right? What specifically are you going to do with that child, right? It has to be attainable. You got to make sure that he can go to school, get all the shots, everything else. So I say that to say that when you are talking to somebody and I don't even really hang out with people anymore that don't have any dreams and ambition unless I grew up with them, right? Unless we have a lot of history, because I'm telling you, some of the stuff that people approach me with, are you serious? Right? Oh, let me borrow some money. I don't do that, right? Because that becomes a habit. And so when are you going to, I'm going to give it back to you. When exactly are you going to give it back to me, right? And how much? Are we going to do half-seas? Are you going to give it back to me next Tuesday? Well, I get paid next Tuesday. Why don't you wait till next Tuesday to get what you want? So again, like Alicia was talking about, You got to have goals and ambitions. I think she told me about it when I met that gentleman and I kicked him out of the office because he was just too hyper, coming in there all out of breath, rolling on the floor. Where's Alicia? Is she here? I said, bro, she's at work. Why aren't you at work? Right? So I agree with what you said. If you don't have any ambition, please stay away from me. Right? I don't have time to placate people. So.
Absolutely. Thank you. One of the things that I think is important is through having this conversation, and whether you're watching this today and you are, a man is saying, well, I want to be attracted to a woman, or a woman saying, I'm not sure why I can't pinpoint what I don't like about this person. If the person talks, let's say, about whatever the subject matter is, and they talk 100% of the time, if they talk more than 60 or 70% about what they did in the past, and only 30% about where they're going and what they're going to do, then you're a person who's not attractive. You're a person, I can tell you all day long what I did in high school and how great I was in high school. That was 40 some years ago for me. That nobody cares what I did 40 years ago. And if that's all I can point to after 40 years or 30 years or 20 years is what I did and not where I'm going, then I'm pretty much telling you that I don't really have a lot of ambition and I really don't want to go anywhere. And when I think about be, do, have, you got to become the person you need to be in order to do the thing that you need to do. Then you get to have what you need to have. And we talked a lot today about relationships, and we talked about the things you have to do. But what I want to know is who the person needs to be. What's the expectation of who that person is? Forget all the material stuff or the things that they do, or if they're going to cook, or if they're going to clean, or if they're going to do the laundry. So I think all those things can be negotiated. But what's hard to be negotiated is who that person is as a person. And what are those expectations? Are you expecting integrity all the time? Well, how do you tell if somebody doesn't have integrity? Are you expecting somebody that's got a gentle spirit and willing to sit down and spend the time, or they're not willing to spend the time? That's not something you do. That's just something who you are. Are you willing to look at the person in the eye and they can see how much you care about them in the moment, or always on their phone talking to somebody else or talking to their buddies or their friends? When you're around them, do they have all the other people that are in their life that maybe were their buddies? Are they always hanging out with you at the same time? Or do you guys get to have some alone time where you're just hanging out together? What's your thoughts on the person being and what the expectation and what they're being, not necessarily on what they're doing? And as soon as we answer that, I'm going to show you guys a quick video, and then we'll wrap it up. But what's those expectations? Whoever wants to go.
I would say intentions, right? Intentionality. I expect 100% in this relationship that I'm in because I'm giving 100%, right? So, and that's time, attention, and it's other things that I do throughout the day. Like we talk about, other things I do being great, but the time and effort, like you said, if you're on your phone all the time, I expect transparency 100% of the time, period. He has given me that since day one, where it comes to like always having a key to his house, having the passcode to his phone, having his location, like always being able to reach out and touch him if I need to. I've had that, and I continue to have that. And he has the same for me. I have to have that transparency, not because, I didn't even say I needed to have it. I didn't even have an iPhone when I met him, right? So I got an iPhone because of him. And this was like all of like us talking about expectations, but it was like, it's not even a control mechanism, babe. It's a safety mechanism. If something happens to you, I need to know where your last location was. I need to know if you're okay. If you can't text me and say you made it to school, I can look throughout the day and be like, she's still at school. Hey, babe, did you eat? And I can have you something delivered. You know what I mean? So when you're not transparent 100% of the time, it makes me think that you have something to hide. And again, why am I laying down with you if I can't trust you at your word? So that's something that I do expect. And attention, like, I think we're mature enough to where we go to dinner, we're not on our phones, or something doesn't have our attention. So intentionality in that regard too, because we're friends, right? So I'm not going to be sitting at the table. But something that we do that I think is really cute, because Rico doesn't have social media and I have social media. So I'll watch like funny videos on Instagram or something, and we'll lay in the bed and we'll watch them together, and we're like cracking up because he's never seen this type of thing. He's like, oh my God, he thinks this is the funniest thing, but we do it together. So, or he'll play chess and I'll play spades on my phone. And then we're like, all right, you ready to go to bed? He's like, yeah. So it's just our brain dump from reading so much and doing what we do, but we do it together. But that's just my 2 cents.
This is a question for you, Alicia. How do you balance that with privacy? I think that each person should have a modicum of privacy, right? When I go in the bathroom, I don't want her to come in there, right?
Oh, he's the same way. He doesn't like that either. He doesn't like me talking to him through the door. He's the same way.
Why I wouldn't like that. I don't like that.
Yeah, because I'll be in because the bathroom is separate from like where I do like my hair, right? So he could be in there with the door closed, and I could be in there doing my hair. I'm like, hey, babe, and he's like, babe, what are you doing? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. So that's he's drawn that line. That's a boundary, and I respect that. And I'm the same way. I don't know. I don't privacy.
For instance, I have social media. My wife has social media, but we're not friends, right? Because I don't want her. I have a lot of female friends. I got a lot of male friends, whatever. If a female says, all right, love you, bruh, or, like your things too much, that creates arguments. Social media.
You take it out of context,
has caused a lot of divorces. So that privacy is very important to have and helps you maintain your relationship. That's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, because he doesn't have social media. So like he uses mine not to talk to anybody, but we share videos. But I don't think it would be a problem because he doesn't really know how to work it. So I show him like, hey, babe, these are DMs. This is this. And like, I don't have anything that he can't see. So I don't mind. Privacy, like I manage my dad's hedge fund. He's never asked me how much am I actually managing. So that's a privacy regard. And we like, I don't know. We talk about a lot of stuff. I mean, this is how we eased into the finance conversation. We were like, yeah, so what app do you use to manage your credit? And he's like, oh, I use Experian. I'm like, yeah, I have Experian, but I also have Equifax too, because I like to like compare the two. And I like these different platforms about each one. And then we kind of talked about it like that. And then we had a race to who could get to 800 faster. And then like he taught me different tricks about what he did and what I did. And so, but before then, like privacy as in we don't ask specific questions. So I can't answer your questions, Dr. B, about finances because we just started living together. This is our first time we moved in. So in July. So we just started living together. Everything is still separate. He pays all the Mickey Mouse bills and I just pay the rent because I get BAH and I think that's fair. And he pays everything else. And that's just how we're doing it right now. And every now and then I'll be like, how much was the gas bill? Just because my dad asked me, because we were comparing, because my dad's bill was like $150. Ours was only $50. But I'm like, how? Because we use the fireplace all the time. But I don't ask. But I'm very observant on certain things. But I don't really need too much privacy. But privacy, he does have that boundary when he's in the bathroom. Like, don't talk to me through the door. Phone privacy, he has my phone password too. And he can't.
That's a beautiful thing. I'm not at that level yet, right?
But you know what? But just because I have access to his phone, I don't go through. Just because I have access, I'm not. When he falls asleep, I'm not swiping through his phone. But if I'm gotta go to the store and my phone is about to die, I'm like, hey babe, I'm taking your phone, and he's like, no problem, I'll put yours on the charger. And we have done that.
Keep it forever.
Yeah, and we've done that multiple times.
Here's what I'll add here too, because I think age and if what you've had in the past leans towards a lot of that stuff. Like you guys already had separate stuff before you ever got together. Like when my wife and I got together, broke as a joke, ready to choke. Anything that we've attained and created has been because we've done it together. And so there is no, I have private, you have private, because we don't have. And then going back, I think where you said, Alicia, is, I shouldn't have a friend if we're both not part of that relationship with that friend, because then that can separate. And so I would just challenge you, James, on that one. On if you have women or friends that your wife doesn't know, then you're going to, because you have, 40, 50 years of your life where you were, you weren't with the same lady. And so, but if you can get to those relationships and anybody you have, she would know, she knows why she's saying it, because she knows that person. And then you don't really need the private. I don't know at what point do you need a whole bunch of private stuff, because that's not where I'm at. But I assume that there are some things that should be private, but I don't know if money is one of those things you should be keeping for one another. I mean, I don't mind you having different, if you want to have different bank accounts and stuff, but why do you need not to share those things? I guess would be my question.
Well, every woman has the escape account, right? If something goes wrong in the marriage, they have some money they can escape with, right? I got a whole bunch of sisters, right?
Then they do.
I don't ask my wife for any money. So her money is her business. I don't need to go through her bank account or whatever. She don't need to go through mine. Anything she asks for, here you go, right? But just certain things, right? I've learned that will keep peace in the house, right? Just being Facebook friends or whatever, and she sees who text me, whatever. And then don't get it twisted. My female friends, my wife knows a whole lot of my female friends, but I'm almost 60. So I've had a whole lot of experience in life. I've met a lot of people in the military, so on and so forth. So it's just, I can't introduce her one by one to my 20,000 friends, right? She's not going to remember them anyway, but we're always home together. So there's no issue there. So I don't have a reason to really tell her, you know what I mean?
Well, I think like when I think of my wife, I would be very surprised if she has an escape account. Her escape account would be take me out, get the life insurance. That would be her escape account.
Okay.
If that's what she had to do. But I don't know any of, I guess, the women that I know that have these separate, I mean, I guess you have sisters that have accounts that if they had to leave, they could. But to me, I guess that lends to an expectation that could happen, and I guess it always could happen. But I don't know if there are separate accounts. That I don't have a separate account that would be, that I would be, I'm fine. I mean, I have enough belief in my ability to move on. If she were to be gone or leave or whatever, then I would start over and go again. But I guess that's safety that you talked about. Alicia, I think you have something to say in that too.
I was just gonna say with my parents, y'all wasn't on the first episode, but Tanisha, but I talked about how my parents have been married for 54 years. And so they got married when my mom was 16. And so they've always had the same account. And my dad would come home and give her his check. Now that my dad draws Social Security, right? I got my mom a Navy Federal account. And he was like, your Social Security check is yours. Like, I don't want to see it. And she's so excited that she has her own bank account and she can go shopping and do stuff without him like looking through it, because they did everything together for the last 50. Well, he did 50 years at the mill. So for the last 50 years, they did everything together and were super transparent. And so now she has her own bank account. And sometimes he'll be like, how much money you got in there? And she'd be like, boy, don't ask me about my money. And it's kind of cute because she feels like she can surprise him with stuff and do things that he doesn't know. So I think in that regard, yes. But I don't know. I'm not there yet in my relationship. So
well, and you shouldn't be. When you're getting started and going, I think. Tanisha, I think you want to say something. You're on mute.
I think it is based on each individual's relationship with their partner of what works for them as far as privacy goes. I think it's defining what privacy is for that individual. Privacy for me would be, hey, I don't like everyone coming to my house, and you might be like your spouse might be very social. It would like the privacy would be like, well, I don't need everyone to know where we live. This is our space. This is our peace. This is our serenity. So can we like have a conversation of what that looks like, of who's going to be invited over here for privacy purposes, not having all access to the kids. That's privacy for me. Privacy as far as like with him, it would be sometimes not to be intrusive of his private thoughts on the way that the day went, what he's experienced, so that he has time to process and then come to the table to have the conversation, to be mindful of that moment of privacy, to unpack and to process whatever has gone on through the day. And they have that opportunity to have that conversation later. And the same on my side. Just, I look at privacy in that sense, like access to us, access to kids, access to things that are not really your business or ministry at that point in time. because everything isn't.
So, so I've been taught never rely on anybody, and you'll never be disappointed, right? So, like Dr. B said, he could, something happened, he could rebuild and all that. I'm 60 years old. If I come home and my 20,000 a month or whatever is out of my account, she stole it and dipped with another guy, right? I'd be in the street looking for her, right? I don't want to go through that. So I keep my money to myself. She keeps hers to herself. We put it together. I take her shopping. She can have whatever she wants to, but you don't need access to my personal account, right? Because it's not relevant, right? And that's kind of privacy, right? I want her to have her stuff. She can shop. She can do what she wants to. I pay 90% of the bills. Hey, enjoy your life. But I'm not going to give you I just told you a story where the guy was getting robbed every payday and got put out of the army because he kept breaking curfew. I believe for my mental stability, I need to, because you got car insurance, right? You never think that you're going to get in a wreck, but you are taking a preemptive measure, right? An ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So that's kind of what I believe in, right? And I don't know if you call it privacy or whatever, but I don't have anybody. My mother and father are dead, right? I can't call Dr. B or Tanisha or Nathan or anybody if I need some money, right? So I have to rely on myself. So I keep my account like that just in case, right? She might fall in love with somebody out in the street and take all the money. I'll be broke. That's not going to happen. So just a protective measure.
Was that a conversation that you had with her? And because like I said, your privacy. So for another household, finances may not be the privacy. It could be something else. When you and your wife had that conversation, was privacy for your finances, was that discussed? And she was like, you know what, I'm on board with this because it makes sense. I don't need to know what you personally have or any of that. Or was it like, this is it, this is my expectation, and just this what we
So I put out my expectation, right? My wife was truly submissive when we first got married. And she'll tell you, I would call her in here, but we don't need that. So when we went to an FRG meeting, right? And the lady said, we need to volunteer for XYZ. I said, oh, my wife wants to volunteer for that. She was sitting next to me. So the lady who was giving it, you're not going to let your wife talk? All the females look crazy, right? And you know what my wife said? And that made me love her more. She said, he speaks for the both of us, right? Submission. Can I get some claps on that? Right? And not that what I say goes, but I told her, I said, listen, this is what I will accept. This is what I won't, right? Now, her going out with her girlfriends to clubs, no, she doesn't go to clubs, so we don't have that problem. Some guys let their wives go out to the club with their girlfriend. I'm talking about every weekend. That's not going to happen. We don't need to be married. What you looking for in the club? If you want to dance, I'll turn some music on here. You do salsa, do whatever, but you don't need to be in no club. You need to be dressed appropriately. That's just because you have to respect your marriage. Am I wrong, Tanisha?
Go ahead.
I think I'm over here. And mine is different. Okay, so mine is different. When I went through a lot in my first marriage, good, bad, and different. But just remembering, like, if I wanted to go out, I was very mindful of what I had on, and I wasn't comfortable in myself because it was what the husband wanted or his idea of how a woman should look. It never like tapped into what was good for me. So fast forward, I'm in a new relationship and I sing. I'm a vocalist, and so I was in a band and I had to perform. I'm on stage and I'm going to purchase clothes, and I am purchasing items that are like bohemian, and that's me, and like fully covered and all of that. And I also had some other outfits in there. And so I asked him, I was like, babe, he was like, if you don't wear that outfit, which was not the bohemian, but which was one that just complimented my shape, just everything about me, the essence of me. And I was taken aback by that. Wasn't because I was in the club every week, but not for what you're talking about, James, of just going out with the girlfriends. It was a job. But him saying, like, I support you in this, it wasn't, I expect you to look like this, and this is what it's going to be. And oh, you're out in the club and it's cut off. It was, you know what? I support you because I see happiness here. And like, let's continue to have the conversation. But where would you go
That's
wear?
different.
No,
That's
I
different.
I don't know if that is, because you said
It is, because you're working, you're performing. Now, if you're going out with your girls and you in the club dropping like it's hot, right? That's something different. Because
well,
I'm your best friend and we hanging out. You don't need to be in the club, right? Me and you could dance in the living room and have the same amount of time. When you go to club,
maybe go out with them. Yeah, maybe go out with them. You know what I mean? Because
we don't need to be in the club. I'm 60 years old. What I'm in the club for?
Well, I mean, I'm not going to the clubs. I'm not. But for those
thing, we going to
but
cruise.
You're 60. You're right. You're 60. Well, but for those other individuals that are a little bit younger, right? Maybe going to the club and just seeing what it is that thrills. It may not have anything to do with seeing another man or another woman. I'm just being honest. Maybe that is their let out of being on the dance floor. Yeah, at home, but it's something different when you are surrounded. It's like community and you're able to release. So maybe going with that individual. For those who do go out, I'm not in the club, so I can't speak to that. But for
after
those
you turn 25, there's no reason for you to be in the club, especially if you're married or have a mate. There's no reason for you to be in the club. I have let a few relationships go because you want to be in the club. So they want to go to the club. I don't want to go to the club. What do I want to go to the club for? I did all that. I was single. I know what men want. It's not about what you are trying to do. It's what the man might be trying to do to you. And I got to come in and defend you because somebody's grabbing on you, right? Stay out of the club. Focus on your relationship. Unless you singing or dance or whatever you do, break dance, whatever, right? There's no reason to be in the club.
Now I'm break dancing, James. Now I'm break dancing.
Yeah. If your wife said she wanted to go to the club every weekend, you would have nothing to say? I'll put Dr. B on the spot.
Hey, I'm with you, James. If you're married, there's no reason to be in a club at all, ever.
Ever? I'm singing in the club, so I can't. I just.
Well, okay. I meant like in the club, like going to the club, not performing at the club. You're not in the club, and you're performing at the club.
So being in this world, but not of the world, is what you're saying. I'm of the club, but not.
But I don't know. I guess my understanding of what the club is for, and so if the club is to be entertained, that's one thing. If the club is because my impression of what the club is for is so that you can find somebody that you can be compatible with. I think that's what the club's for. Okay. I don't, people tell me I'm going to the club just so I can dance. I go to a wedding, go to a bar mitzvah, go to something that you can dance at if you need to dance. But I guess I see those people doing line dancing and they go there and they're drinking but I don't drink. And so other than drinking,
I don't either.
I don't know. I just can't find a reason to be there, but that doesn't mean I'm going to judge anybody for doing it because I'm not. So
that was I know what I went to the club for.
Oh,
yeah. I was the predator. I was in the club hunting back in the day.
So you were.
Oh my goodness.
See, at least
Nathan?
Because anyway, I'm gonna reel the conversation back, Dr. B, because Tanisha answered that so beautifully, and I was like, I did not answer the question. So privacy for us is like. Oh, I can get it for you. Thank you. Privacy, she's trying to get some more bread. Privacy for us is like, if he gets a phone call and we're sitting on the couch and his mom calls him, I'm going to get up and give him that privacy, right? So like his daughter came for college. Both of our daughters were here. That's why I missed one of your sessions. But he went to go pick her up. And as much as it was a 7-hour drive, I'm like, you sure you don't want me to go? But then I thought about it. They need their time to talk on the way back, right? So that's privacy. So if one of his family members calls, sometimes I get up and walk away. I don't have to all the time because he'll be like, babe, you good? But I do afford him that opportunity, right? And I think that's privacy in the household as well. And like Tanisha said, just being thoughtful and not prying. And when he comes in and because I'm his friend, right? I read his body language. I know he's had a hard day. I'm not going to be like, what's wrong? Tell me. How you come in the house with an attitude? I just kind of let him unwind. And then guess what? He's going to talk to me when his head hit that pillow. And he's going to be like, babe, you ain't going to believe what happened. Because I've given him that space to process that. And I think that is privacy as well.
Well, thank you for that. I think we're at a kind of a stopping point this week. I'm going to play the video to end the show just so that we'll be prepared for next week. Because I think we're just scratching the surface on expectations. And I thank you guys for today. I did want to tell just one quick story. I do living trust, and so a lot of the things when somebody passes away, families just act crazy. And so if you're watching this and you're at the same mindset of James's, which I'm not saying is wrong or right, I'm just saying if you're at that same mindset where I got to keep everything and my money and everything separate. My daughter's husband's dad had a stroke about 6 months ago, and he was kind of of the same mindset. And he had had a previous marriage, and he had accounts and stuff that were that were his, that he had all his money in, and he wasn't ever expecting to have a stroke. And so one of the things that happened is they decided he didn't have a trust or anything that allowed for him to be taken off of life support. His daughter said no. His wife said yes. They went through that whole thing. But then he did eventually. They took him off of life support. He passed. All of the finances that he had were stuff that weren't the one that was together, had locks, no passwords, no nothing, no ability to interact with it. And some of them, even because they might even been in, different like name or something, where had access to it, pensions, that kind of stuff. And so his wife is still struggling to get access, even though she's got the death certificate, the will, the daughter saying she deserved it, that kind of stuff. And so even if you have it that way, it's important to make sure beneficiaries and people that are that you want to have access to that if you're no longer there, that you, and I'm not saying you don't have that, James. I'm just talking to other folks that if you are in that situation, make sure that your account has a beneficiary on it that says, yes, my wife gets this if I do pass away, or family members, whoever you want, make sure that's taken care of. Because it's so important that she's struggling because he paid the bills. He did a lot of the things that she doesn't even have access to know what's there to be able to take over and do stuff. And so in that partnership, even though might not be sharing amounts and that kind of stuff, it's important to at least have something written down, some type of plan, some type of something put together in the case that something does happen, because it is super hard to get around if you don't have access to those things.
So can I give your audience a financial tidbit?
Absolutely.
Okay. So this is one that I learned when my mother died, right? If you die intestate or testate, will or no will, right? It can still be held up in probate. If any of your relatives, cousin, whatever, want to challenge it, you can hold it up for years. So here's something that I learned. POD, payable on death. So you go to the bank, you put whoever you want as the beneficiary. All they got to do is show their ID and the death certificate, and they empty out your bank account. They just give them all your money right there. So that circumvents all of that will and all of that kind of stuff that can hold you up for years. So I'm sorry, I just wanted to.
Oh, you are right, but however, that can still be probated. So even though it's paid on death, go out there for taxes and stuff. So, but we can talk about trust and that kind of stuff at another day. But you are right; you can walk in there and pull it out.
That's what I did.
Yeah, but what will happen sometimes is the judge will say, I want you to show me the statement before you pulled it out, if somebody can test it in probate for the other stuff that's there. Nobody protest it, then you're in good shape. The trust is probably the best way to go, but we will talk about that, I promise, on another show that we do. But absolutely, POD is important. It's just, and especially like on those accounts, like you said, that you might have that are outside of it. If you have POD on it for your wife, then that means, boom, when you're gone, she'll be pleasantly surprised. Oh, we had all this. I get to go spend all this money. So I think that's amazing and awesome. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to play the video for next week that I want you guys that are watching, that are listening to this, to listen to, and then we'll come back next week with it ready to go. So let me hit nope, I don't want to do slides. I want to do screen share. To hit here. Which guys always love how I talk through this as I do it. All right, got it. And play. Oh, let's get the volume going here.
Gotta be black women.
Black women at what percentage?
Over 85%. But it don't matter though. When they make money, that's when they go get white women.
White women, yeah.
The national average for making over $200,000, black men, right? How many of those men are married to black women?
I'll give him about a cool
95%.
95. I believe it. I do believe it. And then when you hear the horror stories, we got to talk about Scottie Pippen. Girl.
Lex has a good point though, because they'll show the Scottie Pippen, right? And they'll say, look, this is how black men behave.
Yeah.
But that's not the fact. Destroying the black family has been on the forefront of the mind of the people who created this country. How do you destroy the black wealth in this country?
Yeah.
Destroy the black family. Make black women think that black men don't love them. Make black men think that black women don't respect them. That's all a fallacy. It's not true. The older I get, I'm 40 years old now, the more I realize that everything I've learned from mass media has been programmed by people who have an agenda. What's the narrative that we hear about black men?
They don't get married.
No, they don't like who?
Oh, they don't like black women.
Well, yeah.
The national average for black men who are married, what are they married to?
It's got to be black women.
Black women at what percentage? Over 85%. But it don't matter though, because once they make money, that's when they go get white women.
White women, yeah.
All right, so we'll stop there. You guys have an amazing, awesome, just incredible day today. I can't wait to have this conversation next week. We'll be back for another round of My Little Weights. We'll talk to you guys all soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
See you guys next week.